The first car today comes from Matt Sparks Welch with the Ferrari 330 P4. When I asked him why he chose this car, he said, "It's the pretty loser. It lost to the GT40 at Le Mans, all destroyed apart from one that Lawrence Stroll owns." Well, I can't say I'm surprised Lawrence Stroll owns it with the amount of money he has. But what is there to say about this car? First of all, it is the epitome of Italian elegance in cars and racing. I mean, just look at it. It's one of the most elegant machines of our time. As said, it very famously lost to the Ford GT at Le Mans. It did win the World Sports Car Championship of that year, though. That was arguably much more famous for its loss. This is, of course, the second time Ferrari had lost to Ford at Le Mans, 1966 being the first time. This is actually the first in quite a run for Ford, who continued their winning streak until 1970, where they lost to Porsche. Obviously, it looks very similar to the 330 P3 from the year before. You'd be very easily mistaken into thinking that it's just a P3.5, but it's not, because thanks to an upgraded tubular steel chassis, the P4 was actually 12 millimeters shorter. There was a bit more than that, though. A lot more than that. As far as the design goes, it is very similar looking, as you can see, to the P3. There was actually a P3/4, which was an upgraded version of the P3, which drove alongside the P4 in the World Sports Car Championship. This beauty had a new 5-speed gearbox that was developed in-house, because the previous one, that was a Tipo 593ZF, was extremely unreliable. One of the biggest problems with the P3 was its reliability, and that was something that this car was out to solve. The engine was created by Franco Rocchi. He was a Ferrari engineer, one of Enzo Ferrari's right-hand mans. You know, he's very close with Enzo. What he brought to the table for 1967 was an upgraded 4-litre V12. What was important about this is that it had a 3-valve cylinder head. It was modeled after the F1 engine of the time, and it was good. It was a nice upgrade. The injection system was also moved from between the cylinder banks to in between the camshaft, so that improved efficiency. All of these upgrades allowed for 450 horsepower, which was 30 more than the previous. So what noise did this engine make? It was incredible. Something explosive and unhinged, as with any V12, really. V12s are just particularly special. When you listen to the Aston Martin Valkyrie in WEC, it's a treat every single time. For no matter how long these races are, every time you always hear the Valkyrie before you see it, because that rip-roaring engine is just unbelievable. And this also has a V12, so you can expect the same amount of audible enjoyment. What makes the engine of this car great is, as I said, just how unhinged it sounds, but also because it represents an era that's long gone. Engines nowadays in cars, they sound so tame, and thinking about Ferraris, you know, a lot of their latest cars have V6s. The 296 has a V6. And of course, this is the way that manufacturers are having to move in, but it takes away from so much of the unhinged character. The temperament of performance cars nowadays is rather this sort of humble, rather than just like ruthless aggression. And this in the 60s was the heyday of those sort of engines, those ruthless, aggressive engines. As I said, the 330 P4 got a 1-2-3 at Daytona, which you can see right here. Rumor has it that Enzo Ferrari had a photo just like this, and might have been this exact one, that he kept right until he died, because this moment meant so much to him, and you can understand why. What a photo finish. A P4 also finished second at the 1967 24 Hours of Le Mans, obviously just missing out from that Ford, which stole the P1 from the Italians for yet another year. What's incredible about the P4 is that it is beautifully tragic. It signifies an end of an era for Ferrari, at Le Mans at least. They didn't get an overall win. Of course, they've had plenty of wins in class, but they've not had a factory vehicle, shall we say, win overall until the 499P in 2023. Obviously, that's when they re-entered Le Mans as a works team. The P4 it was the start of this dark period for Ferrari, not having or not being a part of Le Mans or winning it. So as iconic as this car is, I think one of the reasons why it is just because it never quite managed to set out to do what it was made to do. It was an incredible car that, as I said, World Sports Car Championship, 1, 2, 3 at Daytona. This car set out to do as much as possible, and it did that. It did everything but the big daddy, which is Le Mans. One may wonder if the Le Mans losing streak that the 330s were a part of, or 330 P3 and 4 were a part of, was one of the reasons why Ferrari saw themselves defeated. Thinking, obviously a boost of funding always helps, and as the 60s showed, making a car was becoming increasingly expensive. Obviously, Ferrari weren't doing supremely well in F1 either at the time, which is obviously particularly un-Ferrari-like. I mean, it's pretty Ferrari-like when you think about it now, but, perhaps not back in the heyday. At the end of the day, running a racing division that races across multiple disciplines, as well as manufacturing road cars, is a costly business. Making reliable and well-priced cars in the 60s, companies realized that the going was going to get tough. So, let alone making performance cars. The 330 P3 and 4 perhaps showed cracks in the Ferrari system of Ferrari's financial positions that made them realize, okay, maybe this is something we have to do. So yes, that is the Ferrari 330 P4. Awesome car.